Robots are joining the fight against the coronavirus in India. Bangalore based Invento Robotics has designed 3 robots to carry out tasks ranging from disinfecting surfaces to answering patient questions and enabling video consultations. Look at this. Look at these creepy little things. That's crazy, right? Why am I bringing this up? What does this have to do with anything? You clicked the video because you want to hear the good news about a Joe Biden presidency. Because I think that people need a small break, just a tiny little break, just to know that there are things going on outside of the United States elections, outside of U.S. politics, and the way this just absolute clown world is turning. Let's dive into it. Biden will face this overlooked crisis on day one. Members of the new administration may have to reassemble a broken government before they can begin to use it for good. That's right. According to this New York Times reporter, Joe Biden is our knight in shining armor, riding in to save us from a destroying Trump influence. Wah! Go, Joe Biden! Sniff those kids! Yay! I bet that's how he activates his superpowers, too, according to these people. It is. He sniffs children, and then all of a sudden he's just like Popeye with the spinach. And then, he blows up into muscles. Boom. Joe Biden sniffs a kid. Bang. Muscles. 4 days. Most of the election disaster scenarios that journalists and campaign lawyers have prepared for don't seem to have come to pass. True, Trump and many Republicans are giving the appearance of contesting the election, perhaps to placate Trump's ego. Yeah, I'm sure those lawsuits are all for placating Trump's ego. But so far, nothing's emerged that would lead to the Supreme Court getting involved. State legislatures haven't tried to appoint their own electors, and the popular vote and electoral college tally aligned. But while we're worrying about an election crisis, we may be unprepared for the crisis of government that Joe Biden will face after he is inaugurated as president on January 20th. It's not just the likelihood that the Senate will remain controlled narrowly by Republicans and so prevent ambitious legislation on climate change, economic stimulus, or health care. And there it is. Regardless of what happens to the office of the president, 2 things remain true. One, in all likelihood, the Senate will remain controlled by Republicans. And Republicans have, without a doubt, gained ground in the House, forcing what is a narrow majority down to an even narrower level. If Joe Biden, if all this fails, and it likely will, I said yesterday, and I maintain that there is a slim path for Trump to come out of this litigating his way to the presidency. There is. And denying it is just pretending. You're just living in a fantasy world. But if it fails, and it is likely to, we're going to have Joe Biden as president, and a lame duck president at that. There's much more to governing than legislative initiatives, and unlike previous Democratic presidents with low expectations, Mr. Biden could hit the ground running with the day-to-day work of administrative governance. And unlike his predecessors, he and his core staff have experience in the executive branch that others need years to acquire, whatever. In personnel and regulatory rules, the day-to-day business of governing the next president is likely to encounter a minefield of Trump-era changes, a bureaucracy that's lost much of its experienced middle tier, and hundreds of officials who have passed Trump loyalty test reportedly organized by White House Personnel Director Johnny McEntee, or cabinet officials like Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who asked Trump to fire his agency's inspector general. Okay, whatever. I don't know why that's a big deal. It's normal parts of business, but I guess because it's Trump, it's all bad. So they go on to write an entire article that comes down to this: the basic challenge of claiming control of the executive branch and carrying out a public health and economic response to the pandemic requires far more than a day to be ready. Mr. Biden and his team also might not realize how much has changed and how much of the basic structure of daily governance has been broken. One value of democratic norms is that they create expectations that allow smooth transitions across administrations or within them. As those norms have been broken in the Trump years, so have these expectations. Blah, blah, blah. We're excusing Joe Biden preemptively for being a lame duck president. We're going to blame Trump because Joe Biden isn't going to be able to keep any of his campaign promises. Maybe that's not fair. Maybe very few would be a better descriptor of this. The long and short of this article really comes down to, and my takeaway from it comes down to, as I said, an excuse for Joe Biden being a lame duck president, but a reinforcement that even though the office of the presidency is going to be lost to Republicans, they're still going to remain largely in control of a lot of policy that gets passed. And that's really the important thing. Now, do I trust Republicans? Not really. Even identifying as a far left Republican, which apparently used to be a moderate. It used to make me a moderate, but now those terms are just up in the air, and it boggles the mind to think, like, you guys can go down to my interview with Nimicry, where he talks about how Democrats aren't really Democrats. They aren't really left wing. What they are is moderate Republicans. And it's like, dang, really? That's the position you guys take. You see this. And I don't trust them. But I think it's a good check on the progressive push that Democrats are making to keep things from going off the rails. And that's really what we want under a Joe Biden presidency. If you are conservative leaning even in the slightest, you want to keep things from going off the rails. Unfortunately, what we're looking at is we're looking at future lockdowns. We're looking at a crackdown on internet trolling. We're looking at a crackdown on free speech. And we may be looking at some sort of quick dismantling of the oil and gas industries towards a replacement that isn't there yet. I said in that same interview I just cited, one of Joe Biden's positions that I agree with is he feels like we need to transition away from fossil fuels. And I agree. I do. But I don't think that's something that can be done in a 4-year term. I don't think that's something that can be done in 10 years. I think we're going to need 40, 50, 60 years to do that. But I agree that it eventually does need done. We don't know if there's oil on other planets, and we want to go to other planets, right? Yeah. We want to set up a base on the moon. I'm pretty sure there's not oil on the moon. And I don't know about Mars. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But I'm going to guess there's not oil on Mars. Maybe there is on Titan. I think I saw a meme about that. One of the moons out there, and I think Titan's the one. And it's an eagle that says Titan. Sounds like it needs some freedom. Eventually, yes. Eventually these things need to happen. But Joe Biden's current position is that he wants to completely end fracking, and he wants to transition during his term to primarily renewable energy sources. And I don't think the tech's there. So we would destroy a lot of our economic power and ability for no reason. That's all I got for this morning. Apparently, I have a phone call, another showing, for this house. So I will hop off here and catch you guys later. Have fun.